What's up guys, welcome to the channel. Today we are back with another video on HackTheBox, doing the vulnerable machine Sauna. And it is a Windows machine, PS, Active Directory. Of course with Active Directory we always know there is going to be large amounts of ports, large amounts of services, large amounts of enumeration, the fun stuff. So let's get it started. So to start off, as always, perform an Nmap scan. And this is the first one that I performed, of course, with the all ports and script scan and the version scan. So here we look through, we see we have DNS open, port 80, HTTP, Kerberos, port 88, RPC, LDAP, some SMB going on. And one of the main things I really want to point out, because I also performed another Nmap scan, because I realized I actually didn't get as much information as I needed, right? So I did another Nmap scan with the script scan, version scan, and a little bit of verbosity, right? And with this scan, if we see the results, we actually get the name of the domain, which is really important, right? Egotistical bank. Really important information that we want to grab as we're going through this machine, because we ultimately want to know what we're dealing with, right? So if I scroll up and look at the previous Nmap scan, we see we didn't really get that, right? So I think it's really important to understand. I mean, of course we get it here, egotistical bank, right? But this is just the HTTP title, so it's not giving us the domain name specifically. But it's really important to understand that you want to perform as many Nmap scans can, right? Because you never know, Nmap, it's a fantastic tool, but of course there are things that it misses, right? If it doesn't do a correct scan, or if it doesn't use a correct flag. Of course, we know with like SYNAC and reset flag and all that stuff, sometimes it just misses certain types of information. So really important to perform as many Nmap scans as you can that you think are necessary, and then move on from there. So just to save time, here we have port 80, right? That's kind of always what I like to start with, because since we know that there's a web page that's open to the public, so it's definitely worth looking at first. So here is the web page, egotistical bank right here, and we want to try to look through and enumerate this as much as possible to see if we can find any information that we deem as critical. Customer testimonial, right? The About Us page is always a good one to look at, right? Get some more information on the company. Scroll down, and what do we have here? We have some employee names. Very interesting. All right, meet the team. We have Fergus Smith, Sean Coynes, Sophie Driver, Bowie Taylor, Hugo Bear, Stephen Curve. So whenever you are across a web page and you find information like employee names, right, that's very important. You want to gather those employee names, because that pretty much opens you up to possibly, taking over some accounts, right? We know employees like to name their usernames after obviously their name. Don't know the format, but this is a start. So you collect these and you put them in a text file, right? So we can do nano text and put all their names in this text file. And then Stephen Curb, right? Paste that, save it. Cool. So now that we have all those usernames gathered, to save time, right? Normally you would go through all these ports and services, try to enumerate them as much as possible, but there isn't really much inside of any of these services, anything that really sticks out that we could use, right? So since we know that nothing else is really valuable to us, we move on to the next best thing, right? The next best thing is to try to take advantage of Kerberos, right? The only way you can really take advantage of Kerberos is if you have credentials or possible usernames that you could throw at the service, right? Because it is an authentication system. It works by using tickets, authenticates people through Active Directory, right? So this is the next best thing. So with the credentials, possible credentials that we have gathered, I like to use a tool called Username Anarchy, which you can install on GitHub, right? Open to the public. Just git clone it and install it. And basically what it does is it formats usernames for you in many different types of formats. So I'll show you, for example, right here, username Anarchy, Anna key, and it does Anna first name, Anna key, Anna dot key, a dot key, right? All these different formats. It basically just automates that for you and creates those for you in a text file, right? So we're gonna perform the command username, oops, Anarchy, input file. We want the creds.txt file that we just created, and we do select format, and this basically specifies what type of format we want, right? So first last, first dot last, and then first L, right? And then we output that to unames.txt, right? Just make sure it's correct, and then we can just press enter. See it's there, cat it out just to make sure everything's good, and it is. Cool. So all the usernames that we found are now formatted in various different ways. So now that we have that, we want to now test these potential usernames towards Kerberos, right? And the one that we can try in the in-packet suite is an asreperos, which would be the command get np users, and here will be the command. So we want to specify the domain, egotistical bank.local, specify the user's file that we want to use, creds.txt, specify the IP address, 10.10.10.175, and then output the potential hash that it gets to output, or we'll just do hashes dot text, and then we can just press enter. Apologies, I actually put the wrong file. It's actually unames.txt, and let's try it again. Boom. And as we can see, we get an asrep hash. So now that we have a hash, we can now crack it. And a password cracker that I like to use is hashcat. So we do hashcat, and you would need to look up the format for the asrep, right? So you go to hash format, hash type identifier, and you just type in with Control F, paste, and this is the format. So it's 18,200, right? So now with hashcat, we do -m 18,200, specify the hash file, and then user share word this text, press enter. And here, as we can see, it has successfully cracked the hash, and the password is the strokes23. Something that we should add to our file. The name was fsmith. So fsmith is the one that is responsible for this password. Copy that. Perfect. So now that we have valid credentials, a good next course of action would be try to see if we can sign into the box with the credentials that we have. So normally, since it's Windows, we should have WinRM open, so we can run evo WinRM and see if we log in successfully. And we have successfully logged in. So the next thing we want to do is try to privilege escalate. In order to try to find an attack vector to privilege escalate, we should enumerate the box as much as possible. An enumeration script that I like to use, which is pretty well known, is WinPs. So let's try to get WinPs over to this box. Since we are in evo WinRM allows the ability to upload and download files pretty easily, right? So, and then upload. There we go. So here we can see the upload is successful, and now we could just run it. Give this a couple of seconds to finish. So here, now that it is finally completed, we could scroll up and look at all of the information that it has provided. Scroll through, and boom, we have found something very, very interesting. Default username, service loan manager, and default password. Money makes the world go round. Definitely something we want to save in our loot. Paste. Password. Boom. Nice. So now that we have new credentials, we could also try to sign in through Evo1RM. Alright, let's do... And for some odd reason, this one doesn't have access. So it's almost like the vulnerable machine is telling us to try something else with these credentials. Alright, another well-known command that is popular for Active Directory hacking is something called secrets dump. Basically, what it does is it dumps a bunch of hashes. So type in the domain, egotistical bank.local, type in the credentials, service loan manager, the password. Apologies, wrong syntax. Let me just fix that real quick, and then add in the IP address. Wrong username. Actually, you do mgr and press enter. And here we have the administrator hash, and that is it. Then you would be able to sign in with the administrator account and get the blue flag. Appreciate you for tuning in, guys. Thank you for watching, and until next time.